Hi guys, Elle here. I am going to start this next round of tarot deck reviews off with this beautiful deck, Tarot of the Tattoo Age. So this is what the box looks like. But I wanted to start this, start with this deck because I've said this a few times, I am trying to review a lot of the decks that there are very little information on out there sort of first. Because I know how frustrating it can be when you're interested in a deck and it's hard to find information on. But this one is especially hard to find information on. I don't think this deck is even listed on Eclectic, let alone reviewed on Eclectic Tarot even. This is the little white book that it comes with. But this deck is still readily available. The website is tarotofthetattooage.com. I will list that below. It comes with a very classic little white book. All that's listed here for each card is a few keywords and the name of the artist that did each card. So there you go. This is a collaborative deck. And I am very often not drawn to collaborative decks, I think, like a lot of us out there, because they don't often feel super cohesive, you know? But I just don't feel that way with this deck. So here's the little bag I keep it in. I freaking love that bird skull. It came off of a ring. And then because this is a tattoo themed deck, I found these little charms that I put on there too. It's like an anchor and a heart and a cross. It works. So I think because or especially because I'm not super in love with the backs of these cards, it's the only thing that I don't actually really love about this deck. I decided to go, you know, super fancy on the tarot bag decorating. So they are fairly large, sort of laminated cards. The cardstock is good and sturdy and thick. You can see how sort of big it is in my hands. And I did edge the sides so they wouldn't be stark white, but they've on top of that also just gotten really dirty over time. But I kind of like that. It works. Here's a little size comparison real quick. Here's a Centennial standard Rider-Waite-Smith card. See, it's a lot bigger, but they're not, you know, giant cards. I can shuffle these no problem with my itty bitty hands. Here's a close-up of the backs. You know, when I say that I am not a fan of them, it's just such a personal thing, you know. They're definitely not reversible, which is something I do usually like to see. Yeah, what that is in the back there is like tattoo guns, is that what they're called? And then even the color changes. It's more of an orangey color down to like a more of a purpley color at the bottom. And then it has, you know, the suit symbols around here. Yeah, cups, wands or brushes, swords, pentacle is here, I guess, and then moon and a sun down here. It's actually, you know, it's an interesting design. I'm just on whole, the whole thing just doesn't appeal to me. But like I said, that is the only thing that I don't love about this deck. Everything else I love, and it just blows my mind that I am this in love with a collaborative deck. Usually I'll find cards from other collaborative decks that I'm like, oh my god, I love that card or something. But you know, there'll be a handful of them that I really like, and there'll be a few that I don't. And then when you look at the whole thing all together, it just, I don't know, it just doesn't work. It doesn't, you know, feel cohesive, as we always say. But anyway, this one does to me, and I guess it will be up to you to decide if you feel the same way. So this is, well, technically this is a 79 card deck. There are actually two versions of this full card. So here's the one that I normally keep in my deck. And then this is, oh, where is it? I thought I had him right there. Haha, I found him. And this is the alternate full card. It's, you know, obviously, look at that. It's a lot more violent and bloody. This deck on the whole is not really that violent or gory or anything. You know, it is a tattoo style deck, so there is nudity and there is some violence. For the most part, it's just that stylized sort of an artwork. But yeah, I don't keep this fool in my deck. He's fun, but he's a bit much for me. This is the one I prefer to use. So you can see on here too, they do have a fairly large white border on the cards, but because they have this, you can see that, like this gray line work throughout, and then the name is in a separate space. It fills the space nicely for me. The borders on this deck do not bother me in the least. I like when they have that. What is that? Stella's Tarot, the Thoth Tarot. There's a bunch of decks that I don't mind the borders on, usually because they have this something in it to fill the space in some way. It just gives it a really different look. I like that. So yeah, this is a self-published collaborative deck, like I said, and I actually just checked that it is still available from the website I mentioned. I'll put it down below. With shipping in the US, it's about $38, and including shipping internationally, it comes to about $49. So, you know, not super over the top expensive. But for the most part, as you can see here, this deck sort of follows a Rider-Waite-Smith pattern and tradition. You know, Justice is 11, Strength is 8. All the suits in the Minor Arcana are the classic names. They're Cups, Swords, Wands, and Pentacles. And the courts are Pages, Knights, Queens, and Kings. Look at that Empress. So each artist has really done their own thing with, oh, I love this card, with each of these cards. And I guess just because it's all in that, you know, tattoo style, mostly with bright colors and stuff, it feels like it all goes together. Isn't that Hierophant unfriggin' believable? So I feel like you can tell too as you go through that each artist, you know, they had different or differing degrees of understanding of the tarot. Some went super deep with it. Some almost did straight up copies of a Rider-Waite-Smith card. Look at that Chariot. Isn't that neat? You can definitely see, like I said, mostly Rider-Waite-Smith influences here. Someone often did their own thing entirely. Some you can see a very kind of a Thoth influence. And some even have the feel of a Tarot de Marseille. There are a few cards in the Minor Arcana where they're almost like just stylized pit cards. That by the way, is a Hermit Crab Hermit. Come on, so good. I freaking love this deck. So, you know, it's a little silly too. It's a bit cheeky. It's a very adult deck, I think. You know, it feels a bit darker. Like I said, there's the nudity and some violence. It's not like an erotic or like sexual deck in any way. But, you know, look at it. It's just a bit more grown up. Not a kiddie deck. But it's smart for the most part. That's Justice. I love that Justice card. So I recently went, you know, looking around on the internet trying to find some more reviews of this deck before I did my own to just, sorry, I'm going fast. Hey, man. I just wanted to see what other people had to say about this deck. And I came across a review by Ethany up on her website. I don't think she has a video for this deck. It was just like on her website, and I love her. I love all her videos. I love her site. I love everything she does. And she has this deck, and she, for the most part, really likes the deck, but it's just not a deck that she is able to read with. And I think that is because, like I said, it's a mostly Rider-Waite-Smith style deck. You'll see, especially when we get to the minors, there's a lot of cards that have very different imagery on them. I think this is one of the cards you had a hard time connecting with, actually. It's a very different interpretation of the star card. And there were, for me too, a handful of cards that I had to just spend a little bit more time with. and sit with, and so I could relay it back to my own understanding of the cards, you know, just spend a little bit more time with them and sort of figure out their quirks. And for me, in the end, like I said, this has become a very, very readable deck. There were no cards that I was unable to make a connection with, to figure out what the imagery was saying to me on a personal level, you know? I love that sun card, too. Plus, I just like tattoo style artwork. Like, that's so freaking cool. This is one of the ones that looks, you know, very, very similar, obviously, to a Rider-Waite-Smith card. And the world. So, you know, I'll try and point some out as we go through some of the cards that I had to spend a little bit more time with. But this is why I really like showing all of the cards in a deck. This is why I prefer to see, if I can, all the cards in a deck before I buy a tarot deck. I want to make sure that there is nothing in there that I won't be able to work with, you know, because that would just break my heart, you know. You spend all this money on something and you're like, I just can't get down with, you know, this handful of cards. There's no way. You know, you can always trade it or whatever, but so this luckily turned out to be something I really could use. Look at how cool that is. Yeah, there's just nothing that I wasn't able to sort of sit with and figure out, you know. I guess this one is sort of, I guess I would consider this one of the more pip style cards. You know, there's not something really happening in the card. But there's really only maybe 3 or 4 cards that I would consider in that category, you know. The 6 of Wands, whoops. Isn't that beautiful? You see what I mean about it feeling cohesive? You know, some of them are black and white, and some of them are colored. For the most part, they're colored cards, but I don't know. It all totally goes together. I think this is one of the cards that Ethany, if I remember correctly, said that she had a bit of a hard time getting over the monkey fighting thing. Sorry if I'm misquoting you, but here's another sort of pip style card. And if, you know, pips in general really give you a hard time, this might not be a deck for you. At the same time, if this imagery really, really speaks to you and you're like, oh my god, I don't know how I'd read half of those cards, but I love the way this deck looks, you know, maybe it's something that you're gonna sit with, you're gonna study, you're gonna spend time with and figure out how to use it, you know, which is just, you know, the funnest thing you can do. The 10 of Wands. And into our first quartz, here is the Page of Wands. I mean, look at that. Most of these cards are so detailed and ornate and intricate that you could just get lost in some of them. Look at the pyramids, and there's a lot of symbolism in a lot of these cards that really work well. Like I said, pages, knights, that's a familiar looking one. Queens. How beautiful. And kings. This is a card that blows my mind. I don't think I've showed this card before, even though it's one of my favorites, because it is so detailed. But I'm going to show you a little close up. Look, he's standing on like a pyramid with the apex separated out, like the eye. You have your salamander with his eye over there. This is his staff, which comes up into. Look at that. There's a pyramid up there. There's a yod symbol up there, the letter. There's just so much, excuse me, amazingness happening. There's a 6-pointed star in the middle there. Look at his head, his face is like a galaxy or something. This flaming crown and his lion cloak. Like, this card blows my mind. It's beautiful, isn't it? And into our cups. There's your Ace of Cups. Now, this deck sort of got me thinking, like, how many tattoo-themed decks are out there? And there really are a handful, and they're all really cool. I don't have anything else that I would consider, you know, tattoo style artwork as far as tarot cards go. But I know that, what's that really popular one that just came out this past year, that 8 coins, 78 cards tarot by, what's her name, Lana Zellner. That beautiful, beautiful deck. You know, she's a tattoo artist, and it has some of this flair, this tattoo feeling to it. It's so neat. Isn't that beautiful? And then there's this Los Scarabeo deck from, I think, back in like 2006 called, what was it called? I think just the Tattooed Tarot. And that one's pretty interesting. It has, most of the imagery of the card is actually on, like, the tattoos on a person on the card. At least more on like the major Arcana cards. You really see that in that deck. The minors have like other imagery around the person with the tattoo too. But yeah, like I don't have that deck or the other one I just mentioned, but I do so love looking at all tarot art online. I think every deck is cool to check out and look at as much of it as possible. A lot of Asian themes in this deck, right? That one's a little crazy. I like them. 9 of Cups. It works. Here's your 10 of Cups. Again, kind of a little bit more of that pip style to it, but there's still, it's stylized. There's stuff to look at and to draw from, I think, on every single card. And here is your Page of Cups, another one of my favorite cards. There's your Knight of Cups. Your Queen of Cups. I'm going to zoom in so you can see stuff a little bit better. I like that these cards are larger in size because you really can. You can see all the detail. They're big enough that it works. Some of these cards, if they were done on smaller size cardstock, I don't know if you'd be able to make out all the detail as well. And your King of Cups. Look at that face. Oh, look at that face. And all the detail behind him. Look at that. Beautiful. And into our swords. So what else actually? Other tattoo decks. I feel like the Bonefire Tarot definitely has that tattoo art style feel to it too, doesn't it? And then maybe even the Tarot del Fuego. I feel like that one's a mixture of different styles, but I definitely feel like there's a tattoo. That's my bird squeaking. Shush, Artie. There's your 4 of Swords. Such an interesting way of going about it, right? I think that card is just so cool to sit with. Oh, I love it. But it's another one. That's one I did have to sit with a little bit and just, you know, decide for myself what's happening here, you know. So yeah, what did I say? Tarot del Fuego has some of that tattoo zing to it, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's kind of all I could come up with. But if you guys know of any other, you know, tattoo themed decks, I would love to hear of them. I think they're really cool. 7 of Swords. Look at our thief here. How friggin' cool is he? I love this deck, you guys. It's so fun to read with. How good is that? 9 of Swords. See what I mean? It really is mostly a Rider-Waite-Smith, and then you have a handful of things like this. This is probably the most like Tarot de Marseille looking one with this stylized pip card. But it's cool, it's bright. You can still draw things from every single card, I think. And here's your Page of Swords. A girl, yay! Here's your Knight of Swords. Love that card too. Here's your Queen. This one's very almost sad looking. I had to sit with that one a while. And this one I definitely had to sit with too. It's just so freaking cool though. The King of Swords is like a frog. So beautiful though, right? Look at that. And it works. It really does. You know, you just gotta take your time and mess around with things a little bit. All right, here are our Pentacles. Ace of Pentacles. I love the ones that get like old school, like the next one too, like old school vintage tattoo looking. Like they're just so neat. You know, I feel like on every card, even though this is one of the more chipper feeling cards, he's pretty happy there, he's pretty chill. There's still this almost darker undertones that sort of run through everything. You can even see in the background there's, you know, what are they, like dinosaur skeletons actually, or bird skeleton, something. That just gives it this, I don't know, this cool darkness and you know, grown-upness, whatever you want to call it. This is your Three of Pentacles. Crying babies. Love this card too, the Four of Pentacles. So I guess some people might consider this maybe more of a collector's deck, you know, a deck for collectors, not to be used for reading for some reason. And I see why they might have that opinion of this deck, but like I said, I have found this to be a highly readable deck. Oh, I love this card. Look at that. Seven of Pentacles. I mean, come on. And even though it's a different feeling from the other cards, I don't know, you guys. I wish I could put my finger on exactly why this works for me and some other collaborative decks don't. It feels cohesive to me. I don't know, it all works. Look at that one. Nine of Pentacles. And your 10. I'm going to zoom in on this one too. Isn't that cool? I just love this deck. I love this deck. Here's your Page of Pentacles. And your Knight. Your Queen. This one might be one you have to sit with. There's not actually a depiction of a person on this court card. But it's, you know, there's a lot to draw from here, I feel like, still. Not my favorite card, but that's alright. I love them all. This one actually is one of my favorite cards. He is like a Viking warrior, King of Pentacles. Oh, I just eat him up. So strong and powerful, right? So good. Yeah, and that does it. And even though they are fairly large cards, like you saw before, they are still super easy to riffle shuffle with. And shuffle with even, you know, long ways, holding like this. And I really do have fairly small hands. My only beef is the backs are non-reversible and not necessarily to my taste. However, I fucking adore this deck. Love it. Love it to pieces. And it is the Tarot of the Tattoo Age. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.